Heyo, what is up everyone? It is the ALPHAJ of the ALPHAJ Show, and today, as you may have seen in this pattern already, we're going to talk about the Fairly Oddparents. Now, why this episode in particular, you may ask? It's an hour-long special, but also it helps me hit the nail on the head as to what was the biggest factor as to why the Fairly Oddparents isn't as good as it was before. Some people believe it was Poof or Foop, Sparky or Chloe, and I'm here to say, while Chloe and Sparky aren't helping, they aren't the biggest factor. Big Fairy Share Scare could have worked. Just replace Chloe with Tootie, Chester, or a non-Mary Sue. However, the problem, and the biggest factor as to what made Fairly Oddparents the way it is now, is the writing. And nothing shows better than one of the 5-hour-long specials to come out in Season 8, Timmy's Secret Wish. We get an intro sequence, like with Channel Chasers, that has pretty much nothing to do with the actual special, so I'm gonna go past it. This episode begins in the midst of Timmy wishing random things in order to get to his 1 millionth wish. For an opening scene, it isn't too bad, and it has a little comedy spread around. I definitely enjoy Jorgen popping up out of nowhere, and Timmy's 1 millionth wish, a crowd that cheers for him no matter what, just flies in all different directions. The episode plans to build up Timmy as a exemplary god kid, with the fact that Jorgen would say that no other kid has made 1 million wishes before. I do think that was a pretty good move to do, considering that it would accentuate the fall to come. I also like how they promote the feeling of togetherness. As with many Fairly Oddparents specials, generally something is going to happen that will cause someone to split up. Then delve into this song, which, if I'm going to be completely honest, unlike the musical special, School's Out, I did not remember this song, and I probably won't remember this song to come. I actually forgot there was a song going into this episode, just watching casually. It seems less like a memorable song, and more like a way to fill up the episode. Let's contrast this song with the song that was put in a normal episode of SpongeBob, Without You, not the one from Gumball, which obviously blows this song out of the park. But going back to SpongeBob, when you listen to that song, you understand exactly what they want you to know. You feel exactly the emotion they wanted you to feel. In fact, the song is so good it doesn't matter if it's them or not.
But this grill is not a home. This is not the stove I know. I would trade it all away if you come back to stay.
Went to other planets, deep inside the earth. Play with superheroes, wish for Cosmo to give birth. You made a booger monster, 50 stories tall. If it could be wished for, you wish for it all.
However, with this, I feel absolutely nothing. It's a nothing song. It feels like a nothing song. It aids in hyping up what comes up next, so after the song, we get a parade in Timmy's name. There's this 3D sequence where it zooms in on Timmy, and I suppose for 2011, it's okay. But I've seen a lot of Fairly Oddparents special use this exact zoom. So because Jorgen, the parade is not really in his honor, it is about him, but it's about all the disasters that his wishes has caused.
Remember when you wished for the world's biggest barbecue?
But I accidentally set the city on fire.
And remember the time you didn't want to go to school and actually wished Dimsdale was on fire?
Yeah, but...
Timmy, buddy, you know that's arson, right? I didn't know your average kid who no one understands burns cities.
The Fairy Council is reviewing his wishes right now, so we will find out. Don't sweat it. Standard procedure. Nothing to worry about.
Now, if you've been watching my videos based off of Jorgen saying you have nothing to worry about, can you predict what happens next? A. Timmy actually has nothing to worry about. B. Timmy actually has a lot to worry about. Or C. The jokes get funnier from here on out. Well, if you answered anything other than B, then you clearly haven't went to the Butch Hartman school of and then the opposite happens. The more I point this out, I hope the more of you notice when watching any of his work.
Wow, was I wrong? We should have been worried.
I bets. So pretty much after analyzing 1 million wishes over the course of about an hour or so, they deemed Timmy to be the worst god kid. You would think if there were fairies going out to kids, there would be a form of quality control. Also, it's kind of hard for me to suspend my disbelief for Timmy being the worst god kid when we actually had an episode that dealt with the Hall of Infamous God Kids. But let's sweep that under the rug. He's going to have a trial which will lead into whether he keeps his fairies or everything he's ever wished for is revoked.
If you can prove to the Fairy Council that you're not a selfish, horrendous, black-toothed demon in a pink hat, then you can keep your freedom and your fairies. Don't worry, you will have plenty of time to prepare. We Oops, wrong again. Wow, I'm 0 for 2 today.
Don't worry, this entire review isn't going to be me pointing out the blatant use of subversion every minute of the episode. Instead, I'm just going to move on. Although the rule of threes is used in comedy a lot, it doesn't make everything funny, automatically anyway. So Cosmo is going to be Timmy's lawyer, which wouldn't be the first time, and Foop will be, I guess, the lawyer of, well, the other side, which isn't really represented by anyone, so I guess he's the opposition. He mentions that he studied law and got a degree, yet knowing this episode, Cosmo is too stupid to get a degree, but again, let's sweep that under the rug. This is comedy, right? A comedy show. Remember that. Anyway.
But if Turner is convicted, then all his wishes will be erased, including that putrid purple pain in my pants.
Now, I'm going to defend the show here. That line could have worked if it was stated much later when it looked like Timmy was doomed. Placing the line here makes Foop look like the dumbest brick aside Cosmo or Mr. Turner, because it makes him look like despite learning law, he doesn't know the concept of an anti-fairy, which is himself. It also makes those who hear it, being Timmy, Wanda, Jorgen, and the others look dumb for not knowing of this themselves. This was not a joke. This was designed to raise the stakes of a plot that was honestly half-hearted to begin with. However, again, like I said in Tough Puppy, it wants me to suspend my disbelief that any of the other characters would go, wait, wouldn't that get rid of you? But going back to Cosmo, you can raise the point that if the Butch Hartman school of and then the opposite happens is so prominent in his shows, then wouldn't that mean that Cosmo is actually a smart lawyer? Well, I applaud your critical thinking. However, there's one thing Hartman loves more than blatant subversion, and that's flanderization of what actually were great characters. Cosmo will always be stupid. Wanda will always be a nag. Timmy will always be selfish. Mr. Turner will always be stupid. Mrs. Turner will be detached from reality. Jorgen will hate Timmy. Poof will be a baby that says poof. Foop will be evil. And Crocker will be crazy and always bring up his mom. And on the rare times that they may break away from this, it's generally for comedy or a very cheap way to freshen things up. There isn't more beyond these characters past season 7. And oh look, this special is after season 7.
We need to prove that I'm not the worst fairy god kid ever.
What? I thought we had to prove you were the worst god kid ever. What am I supposed to do with all this evidence against you?
Hey, get on with the story! Foop finally, after tons of jokes that don't land, shows us that Timmy has made a lot of careless wishes. Now, Timmy's godparents never come into questioning here, because to them, even though they're godparents, they have absolutely no moral responsibility to what is essentially a 10-year-old. Now, the wishes are okay. I'm not going to say that everything here was devoid of creativity, but it does seem like they're taking the easiest path to fill time. Now, I will actually say that using the whole previous episodes as a reference is a tried and true method for creating importance around what you're trying to set up. For example, how Wanda brings in another major or minor character. That's a very neat way of trying to set up Timmy as being a good person. Never mind that this concept was done in a previous episode. Well, 2, it's a neat thing regardless.
I see here you're from the planet Yugopotamia. And isn't it true on your planet everything is opposite? So that when you say something is bad, it really means it's good?
You got it, square blue hairy baby dude.
So when you say Timmy Turner is good, you really mean he's bad?
Well,
And when you say he's been a friend, you mean he's been an enemy, right?
Well, if that's the case, Foop, then doesn't yes mean no and ruin your point? It's so painful watching this, because I know everything has to be in a rule of 3 fashion, or it works because it makes the story work, and the problem is that there's no variation with the rule of 3s. So let's get on with the third person that you're gonna bring in, blah blah blah. Mr. Laser seems good, but then he's bad. I mean, at a certain point, you tend to wonder, is that 1 hour really worth it? And the answer to that is no. 30 minutes? Maybe you can knock this out of the park. 15 minutes? I would even say it would work really well. The problem with this is that the people who made this did not have enough material to fill an hour, and thus are using very blatant techniques to pad out the time, instead of doing things like a subplot, or a variation in humor, or well, not using a 30-minute idea for an hour-long special. Think about an episode many people find fine and good, like Band Geeks, for example. Band Geeks in its current state works at 11 minutes. Doubling that time to 22 minutes or a 30-minute special, that would cause problems in its current state. It wouldn't make it twice as good. Some stories are best told in a concise manner, and I believe that's one of them. Did we really need the parade? Did we really need the banter with Cosmo in the beginning? Pretty much just for him to fall asleep during what would be one of the major parts of the story? Not really, but they don't have anything else to do at the time, so the team resorts to this padding that honestly isn't worth anyone's time. So Poof goes to testify for Timmy, stating that he makes good wishes, exactly how Wanda was testifying, but Foop doesn't rebuttal anything that Poof says because the story wouldn't work that way. But we finally get to the main focus of this special. I wonder what that possibly could be. Nearly 18 minutes in, we finally get the big part that this story has been building up to.
I'm saying that Timmy Turner made a secret wish!
A secret wish? But that's the ultimate violation of fairy law!
So Timmy has made a secret wish with Cosmo, then wished for him to forget, which is stupid because Cosmo in this episode doesn't know how to do anything, so it was kind of a blank wish. Cosmo is a worthless character that does absolutely nothing for the plot. And yes, while he's used for comedic purposes, unlike Patrick, like I said in my 2 character clashes between Cosmo and Patrick, he's also there a lot, and he has developed more than a silly comedic relief before. He's had episodes where what he does matter, and has impact, and in this episode it's kind of the opposite. And that's terrible for a character that's been building up for more than half a decade at this point.
Timmy Turner, this is an egregious violation of fairy law!
You are truly the worst fairy god kid in history!
What's with that audio quality? When compared to others, they have a crisp and clear voice, whereas with him, he has some notable frequency ranges lacking. It's almost as if he wasn't a part of the recording process. But let's get to the big part. So Timmy wished that everyone would stop aging 50 years ago, which is a pretty big wish, and it's a way to keep his fairies. Never mind that fairies don't age, so if you think after 10 years that if your god kid is still 10, that'd be a giveaway. Plus, since people don't age, all god kids were with their godchildren for 5 times as long as they should have been. But I can move past that, it's a cartoon, and this idea is stupid, and they're clearly moving for stupid. What I cannot refuse and pass is this.
Foop, you do realize that you're Poof's anti-fairy, which means if he goes, you go!
Hey, Jarhead, how long did you know that? And why in the world did Foop not know? An anti-fairy. This is one of the most frustrating parts of this episode. This is something that point blank, if you know anything about the Fairly Oddparents, this has been explored numerous times across numerous episodes, and sometimes is the focal point of why certain things are what they are. Are we just to forget that Foop was created because Poof was created? Or that there isn't any other anti-fairy that exists without its counterpart? I seriously cannot suspend my disbelief for stupid. And this is unreasonably stupid and padded out for length. I wouldn't be surprised if they did delay this so they could buy time. But as it stands, Timmy is guilty for doing this, as it is the worst thing you can do in terms of fairy law. This leads into Timmy not only aging 50 years along with the rest of Dimsdale, but also for him to forget everything that has happened since then. This leads into some funnier parts. I actually do enjoy how he's pretty unaware of future and technology. In fact, unlike the courtroom scene, which was a dread to get through, this is actually much more enjoyable. You have Timmy reacting to other people in Dimsdale, as well as him confronting Crocker, who helps him learn about fairies again. It's actually incredibly clever because Crocker knows about fairies, and he knew about them before the 50th year freeze. I actually enjoy this part of the story. So upon getting to Fairy World, we have a bit more jokes as well as a reunion of Cosmo, Wanda, and Timmy. Crocker in this special doesn't have the crazed obsession of catching fairies, and it's actually really interesting how as soon as he gets to Fairy World, that's it for a long portion of the story. He's in the background just standing there, or just there to make a running gag joke. It's like the writers didn't have anything to do with him, so he's just there.
I remember now. You guys had a baby that I wished for. But all my wishes were erased and now he's gone.
Meeting up with Jorgen, they make a plan to make the fairy duo a fairy trio by getting him off an island of unwishes. Wishes that were revoked? I don't know. But you do end up seeing some references to previous episodes, which again is always a plus, and even on the business side. It means you don't have to make that asset again because it's already made, it's from a previous episode. And if there's one thing I know about Butch Hartman's stuff is that his later shows used a lot of tactics to save money. Now for a climax, it's okay, it has a lot of interesting moments. sequence, a fight scene, and it shows that every character stuck in Hocus Pocus, the realm of unwished wishes, to be in character. The reunion of Poof and Cosmo and Wanda was okay. The fact that Timmy would end up sacrificing himself is pretty noble. It's just, look, I'm not someone who has a moving line of standards. I don't think I'm a harsh critic, but this is not worth 44 minutes. The Jimmy Timmy Power Hour, worth every second. Channel Chasers, worth every second. This, I'm sorry, but no. They didn't build it up to be of great importance, and they spent a lot of time telling jokes that honestly aren't funny. So while Timmy is stuck in Hocus Pocus, the Fairy Council calls upon all of them.
You've been summoned because you violated the ruling of the Fairy Council.
You helped Timmy Turner free his erased wishes from the Hocus Pocus.
Seriously, what's the problem with his voice? Is this something wrong with this episode file or something? Anyway, despite Foop making a great argument against the idea of the Crimson Chin and Darth Laser, I guess we're supposed to forget that within the same special, because Timmy sacrificed himself once. Darth Laser is still going to kill, and the Crimson Chin still has to live with the fact that he's not real, and the love of his life is evil because of Timmy. But to not be a Debbie Downer, we have this scene here.
I didn't make that wish so I could have magical fairies forever. I made it so that I could have Cosmo, Wanda, and Poof forever, because I can't imagine life without them. I don't care if I never get to make another wish. Please don't take them away from me. They're my family.
You know what? Good for you. It's a very neat conclusion to a solid second half. Timmy gets his fairies back because status quo and everything's back to normal. Crocker helped Timmy to get away from his mother, but that doesn't conclude why he has no intention of catching fairies. What does this mean for people like Remy who most likely age up and thus without a fairy? It doesn't matter. It's over. All of your questions, your interest in the lore, it's pretty much wasted. Who cares? It's just a special slap together for our 45-minute time block of entertainment. Just for kids, right? The special ends with Timmy wishing for giant bacon, which breaks the house upon wanting to just spend time with Cosmo, Wanda, and Puff. Can't believe I wrote Puff there. I don't care. This was Timmy's secret wish. Overall, the special was not worth the time. Although the second half was solid, decent, the first half was unbearable, and a dread not only to watch, but talk about, because the problems just keep repeating over and over. It's at this point Fairly Oddparents ran out of ideas, because this concept has a lot of previous episodes built in. However, they did not stop there. They went on for 2 more seasons. Season 9 was incredible on how the show went from a respected and enjoyable part of the lineup to one of the laziest paint-by-numbers embarrassments to ever be labeled a Nicktoon before the adventures of Kid Danger. However, for Season 10,